everybody, welcome back to Around the Emirates podcast with Sara Mousa, where I speak to guests from across UAE about topics you want to hear about. Today, I have a very special guest on the call. Please welcome Tom Conway Gordon. Hi, Tom.
Hi everybody. Salam
So good.
alaikum.
Alaikum assalam. I love that. So good to have you on the show. So I invited Tom on the show today because he founded his own company called Conway Gordon, which is a global reputation consultancy. There's so much behind that. Please tell me your story and what got you started.
Fantastic. Thank you, Sarah. Great to be here and great to say hi to all your listeners. Um, I suppose I've been in, how do I start? I suppose I've just a bit of background, I suppose. I've been in public relations, global reputation for about 25 years. And I started my career in sort of the start of the millennium, really. But I I worked in Dubai between 2008 and 2016, where I was invited to come over and lead quite a big crisis for General Motors, actually, for General Motors Middle East. And it was around the time of the global financial crisis. So I was headhunted to come to Dubai to lead the team at Memak Ogilvy. And yeah, so that's why it's my introduction to Dubai. And so I had a great time doing that. I spent most of my 30s in Dubai, from 2008 to 2016, working with agencies there, doing lots of experience, in Dubai, in Abu Dhabi, and Saudi, obviously across the whole of the Middle East. So gained a huge amount of experience in all sorts of kind of industries with lots of different people from different backgrounds, different reputational challenges. So yeah, so that's my sort of background. And having been in sort of, and when Sarah and I met, we did some work with a big global communications firm with Edelman there, working with a department in Abu Dhabi. And that's how you and I got to know each other, Sarah. And so I did a lot of work with that. That was a very demanding role. We did some really exciting stuff. And I came out of that and I thought that kind of gave me the confidence to launch Conway Gordon, which is obviously my name is on the door. You get me, my eponymous brand. And so that was that experience and the confidence and conviction that gave me helped me set up Conway Gordon. So what we do at Conway Gordon is a global personal brand or a reputation, sort of issues and crisis management. We talk about precision communications, so really rifle shot communications for clients and high net worth individuals. The board, CEOs, CFOs, using all my experience over the last 25 years, helping position them and manage their own communications, their own brand platforms, which is mostly LinkedIn, and helping them sort of help them be visible to lead the companies and the industries and having exciting and professional things to talk about and that positioning, but also safeguarding how their optics ultimately, how they sort of are perceived internally within their company, as well as externally amongst the industries they operate in, but also, yeah, I mean, socially too. So that's why I very much enjoy that sort of one-to-one, which is why I call it the company's named after me, because you get me, and I enjoy very much that sort of one-to-one counsel with, yeah, important, influential, senior people who want to sort of do better in how they're perceived, but also get on the front foot more in telling their own stories and how we bring that sort of their own authenticity into and their personality to a point into how they communicate and how they're seen professionally. So yeah, it's been a hugely varied career for me. 25 years in London, the Middle East. I've been in Kuwait. Obviously, as I mentioned, a lot of experience in Dubai and stuff. But yeah, I've worked with clients internationally now. So my time in the UAE was very fond memories thereof, even though it feels like a lifetime ago now. It's quite strange when I think about it. Did I really live in Dubai? Oh my God. Feels a long time ago, but yeah, that's kind of where we've got to now. And so I'm London based, but available internationally, and often fly out to meet clients and that sort of stuff. So yeah, that's who I am, certainly from a professional standpoint.
That's really cool. I love how international you are, but I also love how you have personalized experiences for your customers. It's obviously in big like major agencies, like you tend to have like, the 4 to 5 people on the different teams who have multiple clients. But for you to like have a personal, like this is me, when you walk into the door, you will see Tom Conway Gordon, like, what you see is what you get basically. So I do appreciate that. Um, and that brings me to my next question for you, Tom. What kind of challenges did you overcome in this experience?
Well, setting up your on your own is doing anything on your own is being I wouldn't say I'm an entrepreneur to that regard, but working for yourself is tough business. It's a hard business. I mean, I did it. I did some sort of freelance, not to this sort of level of professionalism, he says. When I was in my sort of mid-20s, I cut my teeth in a big agency, got 4 or 5 years experience, and then did a fair bit of freelancing around London, and sort of set up a kind of entity. Really, I didn't really know what I was doing, so I kind of learned all the lessons and learned a lot of hard lessons back then. And so I thought, when I'm going to do this again properly this time round and make sure I've got a proper brand, I've got a cool logo, I've got a proper website, people can actually find my website. So I invested a fair bit in SEO last year. And aside from all the sort of spam and all the stuff you invariably get of people offering completely random stuff to you, it's starting to deliver proper leads. So that was like, well, that was absolutely worth that investment. So that was kind of obviously a challenge, but a learning from the first time. I think what I found recently, 2024 in London, I think globally, I'd conject, was a pretty tricky year. There was, there was a lot of agencies laying people off, a big kind of, not quite a recession in all but name, not a lot of business out there. But I suppose the most frustrating thing I found was that when I did get leads, because I spent a lot of time networking, marketing, running around London, running around the internet to a point, trying to identify the people and position myself so when people are looking for personal brand and personal reputation management, they find me. What I did find last year was frustrating was the fact that I always vet people. You get a lead and then you go and have a coffee and kind of test them out and test them. Do I really want to work with this person? Because it's important that it's not just, have I got the right client, and are we the right fit? Are they going to listen to what I have to say? And take on board what I have to say. I'm a consultant, not an executive. But what I did find was a lot of people would ghost. You kind of have this great conversation, and I'd write a proposal. I wouldn't give the magic away. I wouldn't kind of tell them what they need to do and all this sort of stuff. But spend a bit of time on a proposal saying, this is my approach, and this is what we do. And we look at this and we look at that, and we think, a bit of brains in there too, rather than just a sort of scope of work. And then people would just disappear, absolutely just sort of disappear. And I think it started to get quite frustrating. It didn't happen loads and loads of times, but generally you kind of got quite a good feel for people, and you kind of know when you have a good conversation and this person, really kick the tires quite hard, and it would be frustrating. They just sort of disappear off the face of the earth. No sort of, well, thanks, Tom, but no, you're not quite right, or oh, we found someone else, or actually, Tom, we think you're an idiot, or whatever it would have been, but just some sort of contact. I mean, it's manners ultimately, and the fact that it's sort of in a professional environment sort of makes it even worse. So getting kind of the knockbacks and the setbacks and the sort of frustration of people just not responding to you and just disappearing like Kaiser Soze, which was hugely frustrating. And I thought, well, that was sort of, well, it's 2024. People are kind of being a bit flim flam, haven't got the budget. Okay, I'll forgive them. I mean, I forgive them ultimately and forget. I always learn that no response is a response. And so I moved on from that. But so that was quite challenging. Kind of when you're trying to set up and you think, oh, finally, there's an opportunity. Oh, yeah, great, it's going to work. There's some traction, and then someone just disappears. That was quite challenging, I must say. But you've got to keep going in life, and you've got to professionally, personally, and that's that's certainly not the biggest challenge to overcome. But yeah, it's frustrating because you think people could do better, but people show up how they are and who they are, and that's it really. That's what you have to take.
No, I mean, it's definitely annoying for somebody to almost give you a little bit of hope, so to speak, to be like, hey, I think, we have great synergies, like we can, try this out.
Mm.
And for them to disappear as well, like it's not just like the most polite move, but I guess it is part of the learnings of being,
Yes, yeah.
being your own kind of company. But this takes me to my next question though. So obviously it sounds like you've gone through a bunch of different experiences creating your company. Is there any kind of
Mm.
moment or experience or anecdote that you want to share that truly made an impact on you?
I mean, I think no great moment. I think for signing the first retainer was a big moment. So I worked with which took a long time to sort of nurture and build a relationship. It's with an American company that makes the world's most advanced nervous system regulation device. It's called Shiftwave. It's a very, very cool kind of chair that uses intelligent mechanical vibrations to ultimately reset and retrain your nervous system. Shift Wave it's called, so check it out, guys. So yeah, but I met the founder there a couple of years ago and nurtured that relationship over time and done little projects here and there before I'd set up Conway Gordon really, but and really built that relationship and kind of really understood what the business is and how it works, but bring all my expertise from communications and how we explain what it does, because nervous system regulation device, what does that really mean? You know, this sort of stuff. So I think landing those guys and securing that as a retainer client, which I worked with them, been working with them for 6 months or so on retainer. So that was a sort of like, yes, it's working. That sort of moment of that kind of, yes, I've got validation to a point and conviction, and it's kind of that all the effort and all the energy and all the nurturing and the relationship building as you have to do. I haven't got a big sort of name behind me yet, like an Edelman or an Ogilvy or a big sort of, it's like, who is this guy? How's that? That giving that exploring, understanding, and kind of realizing the fact that actually, yeah, I know what I'm talking about. Well, of course I do. I've been doing this for 25 years, but you still have that slight imposter kind of occasionally pops in, the Mr. Imposter, and like, no, I do know what I'm talking about. I've overcome many challenges professionally with very tricky clients and challenging problems, global bankruptcies, all this sort of stuff. So it's like when that sort of landed, it was, that was a real sort of, it's the foundation on which I'm going to build Conway Gordon ultimately. So I'm very grateful to Shiftwave and very grateful to myself for actually persevering with that. And okay, now we can really start to move. So yeah, that was a key moment for me and a real sort of, as I said, kind of a big gust in my own sales, as it were.
I love that. And congratulations on having that as a
Thank
very
you.
interesting first client. But yeah, I
Yes.
mean, you mentioned a lot of really important things like imposter syndrome and obviously like having, obviously, earlier discussing people kind of ghosting you after having those initial pitch meetings. This kind of takes me to my final question for you today. After, of course, what you've even said yourself is such a wealth of experience that you have internationally, what would you say is your one word of advice for listeners today?
Well, I mean, it's one word of advice. I think, I mean, I've made some notes about this, and this isn't necessarily professionally. This is more sort of who I am and how I live my life and how I kind of show up. And that's, people talk a lot about legacy. Your legacy is a very trendy word. What are you going to leave behind? And what's your legacy? Da, 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 da. And have you made enough money? Are you good? Have you built generational wealth and all this sort of Instagram stuff that you get fed? In terms of succeeding and making lots of money. And certainly in the Middle East and Dubai, it's a very sort of hustle, 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 money, 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 bling, bling, bling sort of environment from when I was there. And now that, as far as I can tell from what I see on my telephone, that sort of, Dubai naturally just going on a 45-degree tangent, more. And I think that's very much so there. So people talk about legacy. So, but I think I look at legacy in terms of, not necessarily in terms of what happens, what am I going to leave behind when I'm dead. It's more in terms of, what do I leave behind following an interaction with someone? What do they walk away feeling, having spoken with Tom, spoken with me, do they feel that they've been seen? Do they feel they've been heard? That they've been do they feel they've been understood? Because I think in a world where people don't really listen anymore, it's all people just wait to talk. I think for my sort of how I live my life is very much trying to leave behind someone in a better mood. I'm not trying to make people laugh, but just be like, have a positive experience in my engaging with me. And I kind of do that with everyone. It's not like, well, I'll only do that with my CEO client and not his secretary or her secretary, or the postman or the man who's making me coffee. And I think it's quite easy to do that. It's quite easy to make people be seen and heard. And it's, when you go and order a coffee at a coffee shop, you say, you just turn up and go, flat white, please, or double cappuccino, or whatever you want, or oat milk flat white latte, whatever it is. It's just very easy to sort of say, when you walk into that sort of interaction, just to say, hey, how are you? Or hey, how's your day going? Because people they actually sort of look you in the eye and go, oh, it's fine, thanks. Or, yeah, it's fine, thanks. But the fact that you've taken a moment just to see that individual, that person, and ask a very, the simplest question of all, ultimately, how are you? You're not necessarily going to get into a huge detailed conversation about whatever ailments or problems they have, but it's just a simple sort of thing like, oh, really well, thanks. People generally light up certainly in sort of service industries, generally light up a lot more when they feel like they've been seen. You actually like, hey, how's your day going? Oh, it's going fine, thanks. Okay, great. I'd really like a cappuccino, please. That's just, it's a simple thing, but I find that it works. And then I mean, I love people. I'm in the people business, and I think we both are. Just seeing, seeing how people light up and respond to that, it makes the interaction, it makes life fun, actually. And then they kind of go away, or you go away, and you kind of think, well, that was a nice, positive environment, positive engagement. So that's what that's the sort of word of advice, not necessarily advice, because who am I to give advice? But that's my viewpoint on my viewpoint on how I live my life. And certainly it's about how I make people feel once they've met me or had an interaction with me, no matter how small, or whether, we go on holiday for 2 weeks or we do this or whatever it is. But that sort of pushing out that sort of positivity and caring about others rather than just me, I, blah, 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 which I think certainly we can all get involved in because it's so competitive out there. Certainly in social media, everyone's got well, my life's better than yours because all this sort of nonsense. It's all nonsense, really. But looking for that connection with people is something that I find really rewarding and really sort of invigorating and ultimately nourishing. And then when you take that sort of mindset and approach into when you're dealing with high-powered people like my clients or my want-to-be clients, prospective clients, hopefully, inshallah. Then yeah, people that sort of the tools and being able to really listen and understand and then play that things back into people, you really have that connection. So that's why you can understand when I have these really connective conversations with people and they disappear, it's quite frustrating, as you can well imagine.
That is actually really important to hear that. Like people out there don't realize how important it is just to be a kind person. Just the simplest, smallest acts of kindness can make a big difference. And you never know what that person is A, going through, or B, how they could actually return that favor to you. For all you know, the person that you're, helping, pick something off the street is the next CEO of a major company that wants, is looking for a consultancy to work with. So you never know what those kinds of small moments in life are like, what they could do for you. And even for you as a person, it makes you feel good to be nice to people. It makes you feel good to see someone else happy as a result of what you've said or what you've done for them. So I really appreciate you sharing your incredible story with me today, Tom. Thank you so much.
No, my pleasure. I think just a point on that, just in terms of, I don't do it, I don't be like that because I'm going to get something back. It's in terms, sometimes, yeah, but professionally, you hope, we're going to have this engaging conversation. You're going to give me some work and I'm going to help you position it, that sort of stuff. But no, it's pro bono. It's pro bono. It's not always well, I've done this, so I get that. I don't think that's expecting, well, I did this for you, so you've got to give me this isn't the right way to approach that sort of thing I've just explained. But then understanding where the opportunities where it could be. I use a phrase a lot, it's called casting your bread upon the water. So if you cast your bread upon the water, if you're lucky, if you cast enough bread, some of it might come back hot buttered toast. And so the more you do that, the more benevolent. I mean, it's a very English thing, and obviously I'm very English, kind of old school quote, as it were. But I think that's the sort of mindset and approach I take to life generally. I do it for me, ultimately. I do it for me rather than that person. I find that, as I said, rewarding and nourishing. So important to think like that.
No, thank you for clarifying that. It's good for me to also understand where you're coming from that perspective as well. And it's good for our listeners to understand it too. And I'm grateful for the wisdom that you've shared today, Tom. Thank you so much.
That's very kind. Thanks very much for detail.
Cool. Take care. Have a great day. Bye.
Thank you. Bye, everybody.